I'm starting a podcast in 4 minutes, period. It will last about 30 minutes, period. Don't bring the dogs down. Or let me know if you need to bring them down right now so I can extend my time. I have no idea why, but I can't come through live on YouTube anymore. It records it and it puts it on the live after I'm done, but it doesn't do live right now unless maybe you're coming through on YouTube. If you're coming through on YouTube, let me know, because it may not be coming through on my own since I'm signed onto my own account, but I'm trying to sign this onto YouTube and then push it onto my Patreon so that my Patreon people can see this live from the front page. So if you are coming through live on YouTube, let me know real quick. We're getting ready to start here in just a minute. Let's see here. I'm already 4 minutes late. I can't get this thing going on time. Anybody on YouTube? Okay, it doesn't look like anybody is. Nothing I can do. All right, phone off. Airplane mode. There we go. Hey guys, welcome to Through Theology in a Year with Theology Unplugged. Theology Unplugged through Theology. Too many THs. But this is number 5. And this is the one you guys have all been waiting for, because this is the folk theology, tabloid and folk theology session. If you went through this with me a long time ago, many, many years ago, I had some examples of folk theology, but I've got a lot more now. A whole lot more. And so you're not going to want to miss all of my examples that I qualify as folk theology. So don't forget, folks, on YouTube, you may be watching this on YouTube after it's been recorded, or maybe you're watching it live. I don't know. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to, I guess, ring the bell. I don't know. I'm just saying what everybody else says on these podcasts. But make sure you do subscribe on like follow on my YouTube page or on my Facebook page, Twitter page, whatever it is. We're coming through on 4 or 5 different places. So I'm pushing this through Restream, and so this is kind of cool. So let's go ahead and get started if we can. May the Lord bless this session. May He give me the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to say the right things, not to overspeak myself and not underspeak myself. Let me have courage, and let me have just a bit of humility as I go through this, because it's really easy for me to get excited and think I'm a know-it-all, and I'm not at all. Okay, here we go. Through Theology in a Year with Michael Patton. We're going through all of theology in a year. This is number 5, so get caught up if you haven't gotten caught up yet. We're going through every single aspect of theology. I'm going to try to get through it in a full year. This is based upon the theology program. You can see that in the bottom left-hand corner, and you can see my little theology program assigned that I've kept. I haven't kept the rock in the background. That's a little bit too much of the early 2000s, but that thing still works. Kenny did a good job of that. Kenny, if you're watching, way to go on that thing. Okay, so let's get started here. That's not working. Okay, that doesn't matter. Okay, so you guys have probably seen this before. Let me zero in on it. This is the basic arenas in which we can do theology, okay? Think of this as just the way, the methodologies that we have that or really characteristics, really more like just personalities that we have when we approach theology. You've got the tabloid theology, which makes a tabloid theologian if you do tabloid theology primarily. Folk theology, you're a folk theologian if you do primarily folk theology. Lay theology, this is getting a little bit better and further away, but lay theology is basically you're doing theology from the standpoint of a lay person. You're not really super skilled in it, but at least you're not doing the folk or the tabloid theology. Then ministerial theology, that's whenever you get a little bit more educated, professional theology, and then academic theology. And don't think just because that goes from 1 to 5 and tabloid theology and folk theology I'm going to recognize as something we don't want to do. Don't think that I want to imbalanced on the other side, as we'll see later on. We probably won't get to that today, but we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on tabloid and folk theology. So let's go back over here. Let's define this. Here's the spectrum. You can see you're going to go one spectrum. I don't know why I put the spectrum there. I mean, numbers 1 through 5 should have done it, but hey, you got a spectrum as well. Now let's describe this chart with regard to practicing medicine. Okay, check that out. Try to think of both tabloid and folk medicine. That's kind of the deal. Whenever you're talking about medicine and you're talking about, say, tabloid, you'd be talking about something that is kind of new and in vogue, something that is we've just found out about today and everybody's jumping on it. Tabloid might be the latest diet that you have, the latest fad out there with regard to exercise. And there's a lot of that stuff that goes on. There's a lot of tabloid medicine or tabloid physical fitness. There's also a lot of folk. Whenever you're talking about folk medicine, we're talking about something, and I'm going to define these in just a minute, but we're talking about something that has deep roots in the culture. I'm only going to say those two right now because I want to focus on them. So let's go to the next and define it. Define each one of these. Okay. A tabloid theologian. I'm defining it as a theologian. If you are a tabloid theologian, if you are somebody, this is the primary way that you do theology. And trust me, there are a lot of people out there that are tabloid theologians. I'd say the mass majority of people in the world are either tabloid or folk theologians. Now, tabloid theologian is one who constructs his or her theology based upon naive, keyword, naive, You got to think of that. I mean, take that word naive and just run with it, because that is so important whenever it comes to tabloid theologians. They are naive. And it's hearsay. It's information that has no basis in fact and very little, if any, evidence to be believed. Many times people are tabloid theologians because of the theology's appearance of originality, as well as it can be cutting edge in many people's minds. I see this all the time, especially, I mean, even in seminary. You kind of get this tabloid stuff going on whenever we were in seminary or in the academia. You get these kind of new authors and this new fads that people move toward. And they move toward it because it is a fad. And I honestly, to tell you the truth, I see this with regard to, like, lately in the last 20 years with regard to Calvinism. Calvinism has kind of been the fad. Charismatic Calvinism has been the fad. So to become a charismatic and a Calvinist, it's the cool thing. So you automatically go that direction. Why? Because it's cool. Because it has any basis. Because it has any strength. I think it does. I'm a Calvinist, not a charismatic. But at the same time, there's so many people that are jumping on this ship called Calvinism simply because everybody else is on it. So that's kind of like a tabloid thing. Same type deal. So whenever you're a tabloid theologian, you just basically accept anything. You accept everything. You accept whatever's coming down the pike because that's what everybody else is doing. I'm not saying that everybody that is a new Calvinist, I don't even know if we call it that anymore, but a new Calvinist is a tabloid theologian. But even within the new Calvinist ranks, they have complained about this and said, hey, we got a problem because everybody's just jumping on ship because other people are. I see that also whenever it comes to certain theologians. There's certain fads that go through. Like not too long ago, there was a Rudolf Bultmann fad, and it sounded cool to study this German theologian, Rudolf Bultmann. He kind of did things differently. He was progressive, and so all of a sudden you had everybody reading Bultmann and acting like they were Bultmannians. That didn't last long, but I'm not saying you can't be a real Bultmannian, but at the same time, I see this continually. It's a tabloid-type acceptance of whatever is new and whatever is cutting edge and whatever everybody else is doing. Now, let's go back here and take a look at some examples of tabloid theology. Okay, these are really simple ones. I'm not getting into the Bultmannian and the Calvinism. This is just stuff that you hear. This is something brand new. Somebody has brought to you, and you're like, oh, wow, that is so cool. I automatically believe it because it fits within my worldview. And that's what a tabloid theologian does. A tabloid theologian, you'll accept anything as long as you already kind of accept it in general. That is another form of tabloid theology. So if whether it is this story, I don't know if you've heard this story. I heard it again. I just heard it again the other day. That's the only reason I brought this up. I haven't heard it since 1985. Okay, I heard this story. Haven't heard it since then, but just the other day I heard somebody telling this story, and everybody was really excited about it. And I don't know who it was. I can't remember. I think it changes every time who the person is, but basically there's this guy that got up. He heard something in his living room. This pastor, this church leader, he heard something in his living room. He goes around, looks around, and then all of a sudden Satan's sitting there on his couch. And I'm not saying he wasn't. I mean, maybe he was, but and I got excited about this one when I was young as well in 1985. But it's Satan sitting on his couch, and he goes, oh, it's just you, and went back to bed like he wasn't threatened by Satan at all, that kind of thing. And I got really excited about it. We all did in the classroom. We were like, wow, man, that guy's cool. He stands up to Satan. He's not worried about Satan type thing. And automatically it went into my theology. So what do? I go tell other people. I go home and tell Mom, you won't believe this story. You won't believe what happened. And then all of a sudden I think I'm trying to do it, and it just integrates. That's what a tabloid theologian does. Okay, Satan in the living room. How about growing legs? This will never die. And maybe it's true. Again, I don't know. All I know is that people that promote tabloid theology, I'm not saying they know they're promoting tabloid theology, But people that promote tabloid theology will do so and expect you to accept it. So they tell a story, a miraculous story, whatever the miraculous story is. It's done by Jesus. If it's done by Jesus, then you need to believe that miraculous story because it is true. I mean, who else would we give credit to? Whatever it is, it could be a miracle, it could be cancer disappearing, it could be legs growing. You hear about legs growing all the time. Like, I've heard this probably 15, 20 times where people go to a healing seminar and one leg is shorter than another and then the leg grows. And again, I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not saying it didn't, okay? All I'm saying is that whenever you look at that, you get excited and you automatically accept it without any critical evaluation that you're a tabloid theologian. You're just accepting something because Jesus' name is tagged to it. It's real easy to do that, especially whenever you're young, especially whenever you're kind of uncritical and we're just trying to confirm our prejudice, whatever it may be. So if there's a miracle out there, if you hear about a miracle, then as long as Jesus did it, it's true. It's exciting type thing. So that's one of them, legs growing. How about this one? Crying Mary statues. You see that all the time. Of course, you don't see that within Protestantism, but you do see it within Roman Catholicism, and this is a big problem within Roman Catholicism. They have a lot of tabloid theology as long as it fits in. And so you have crying Mary statues. And again, I don't know whether the statue was crying, but if you heard about that and you automatically accepted it, then you're a tabloid theologian. Do I have near-death experiences on here? I think I need to if I don't. Oh, here's the hitchhiking angel. I don't even know if this one's around anymore, but I got to tell this one because this one really is the best example for me because I heard this whenever I was young as well from the same person who told me, from the same teacher at my Christian school that I was going to at the time. She told me about the growing legs and the hitchhiking angel. And the hitchhiking angel is basically, do you know it? Have you heard it? I bet some of you have heard of the hitchhiking angel. Hey, Nathan is on YouTube. Nathan, what is up, man? Good to see you. Long time no see. But glad you're on YouTube, but it's too late for me to get this to push on Patreon. But hitchhiking angel, you ever heard of the hitchhiking angel? Have you? Okay, here's the story. Okay, my buddy was driving down the road the other day. It's always a buddy. No, it's always you like a cousin or something like a friend of a friend. That's what it is. It's always a friend of a friend. Friend of a friend was driving down the road the other day, and they saw this guy that was hitchhiking, just sticking his finger out, and they never pick up hitchhikers. This is the first time. And so they feel something compelling them to pick up this particular hitchhiker. And so what do? They pull over, pick up this guy, not knowing why they're doing it, never have done it before, but here we go. Why am I doing this type thing? They drive along for a little while, and they try to have a little bit of conversation. Not much conversation is usually in the story, but then all of a sudden, the guy turns to the driver, turns to the cousin of the nephew, and says, "Let me out." And he's like, "Why do you want to get out here? We're out in the middle of nowhere." He's like, "Just let me out." He's like, "Well, all right. I mean, I guess so, but I mean, what are you going to do?" He's like, "Don't worry about it. Just let me out." So pulled over, let this guy out. The guy gets out, turns around, knocks on the window because the window's up, rolls down the window, and he says, "Gabriel's mouth is on the trumpet." And the driver, the cousin of the grandfather of the nephew of the son of the mother, says, "What in the world? What does that mean? Gabriel's mouth is on the trumpet?" Man, and so he just drives off and, thinks the guy's weird, tries to think about it for a little while. And he's, as he's driving, he hasn't gotten but a couple blocks. And he's still thinking about it. Gabriel's mouth was on the trumpet. Then he looks back in the rearview mirror and guess what? Guess what, folks? You're not going to believe this. You are not going to believe this. He was gone. The guy was gone. I've heard this, I think, about every road. I mean, maybe there is a hitchhiking angel just about on every, it's usually on some tollway or some highway, just about every one. So I don't know. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. This is the issue, not whether or not it happened. Okay? It's about my uncritical acceptance of it, because what does Gabriel's mouth is on the trumpet mean? It means that Jesus is coming back soon. And that's exciting. That's something I want to hear. That's something that fits within my worldview, and everybody better get ready. And I mean, I remember telling this, and I go home and tell everybody, my mom, I'm like, Mom, I think Jesus is coming home really soon. I really do. I mean, he's coming to get us. He's coming to get us. I mean, you won't believe the story I heard. It's pretty much fact. It's pretty much fact. I don't know, maybe in the next couple of days, maybe we got a week, but just get all your things in order, because Gabriel's mouth is on the trumpet, Mom. So anyway, that's another example. Are you getting the idea? Are you getting the idea of what folk theology or tabloid theology is? I'm not even going to be able to get to folk theology today, but are you getting an idea? It's uncritical acceptance. It's different than folk theology. Now, having said this, I don't think a lot of people use the term folk theology. That was introduced a while back by Stanley Grintz and Who Needs Theology? A great book, really, really good book. I have that on my suggested reading list whenever I teach this class formally. Still a great book, Who Needs Theology? Grab that book, because it'll go through all these different categories. Although it doesn't go through, and it's unfortunate, I had to put this in here, tabloid. It doesn't go through tabloid theology, or at least it didn't in the first edition. And so I did make this up, so don't think it's something that's well established in the Christian community. But I had to come up with something that really distinguished it from folk theology, because this is different than folk theology, as we will see. It is uncritical, immediate, flashpan acceptance of whatever you hear that already conforms to your worldview. Okay, let's see if I got any more examples here. God told me to tell you, oh my gosh, yes I do, and I'm going to get in trouble for this. God told me to tell you, I walk up to you and I say, hey, listen, I've gotten an inner impression. Maybe I have. Maybe I got an inner impression. I think I'm supposed to tell you something. And I'm not saying God can't prophesy, okay? I'm not saying he can't, okay? I hope I know he can. I know, absolutely know he can still prophesy. I just don't know about the occurrences and how common it is. I've never been a charismatic. We'll talk about that much later. But at the same time, boy, do I want to hear God's prophecy. So I want to hear somebody come up to me and say, God told me to tell you this. Whenever somebody says that to me, my ears perk up. And it influences me. Whether I want it to or not, it usually will influence me. I remember whenever I was really young, I went to it's called Frontier City. It's kind of like Oklahoma's version of Six Flags or Disney World. It ain't much, although we're getting a good one. We really are down there in Tulsa. What is it? I don't know what it is. It's some Dollywood somewhere else. I don't know. We're getting a real big one though, so we're going to be in competition with everybody soon. But anyway, so what was I talking about? Okay. Oh yeah. I was at Frontier City, and you know, here I am. I'm a 12-year-old, 11-year-old Christian, and here's this palm reader. All I know is palm reading's bad, and that girl was bad, evil. So I'm going to go challenge her myself, you know. And I go up to her and I kind of lean her along. You know, this 11-year-old, I know what I'm doing. I'm leading you along, and I'm going to kind of, trick you, and there's gonna be a big turnaround here in a second, lady. So just stick with me. So she said, "Give me a penny," and then I don't know what the penny had to do with it, but she stuck the penny in my hand, and I guess read my hand at the same time, read my palm at the same time, and she said, "Do not drive." No, first she said, "You're gonna have feet problems when you're older." Okay, feet problems. And also, do not drive any red sports cars in your 30s. And that's all she said. She gave me the penny, and I said, I don't want this penny. I don't even believe you. I was just kidding this whole time. And she gave it back to me, and she said, just take it. I said, no, I don't want it. And I gave it to her, and she picked it up. I mean, here's this 11-year-old. She just chunked it, got really mad and chunked it because I guess she knew what I was doing there. But anyway, so I'm like, haha, gotcha. I didn't believe one word you said. I didn't even care about any palm reading you could do because I'm a Christian. But at the same time, here's the deal. The rest of my life, I've thought about that. I haven't driven any red sports cars. I don't know if that's necessarily the reason why. But if I was still in my 30s, I probably would think twice about getting in a red sports car, just because it's this it's this flash pan acceptance of things. Whenever somebody comes up to you and says, I got a prophecy for you, I've read your palm, or God told me to tell you, that's seeking power over your mind. It's causing you, it's calling you to believe this because from their perspective, they have a inside source, God or palm reading or the stars or whatever it may be. And that is the reason why we are to stay away from that stuff, because it does influence us no matter what. And I would argue that we need to be very, very careful about, God told me to tell you stuff. Very careful, because that's more influential. And if somebody says that to you and you uncritically accept it, okay, what did God tell? What did he say? Come on, slow down. I got to write this down. What did God tell you to tell me? It's the most important message I've ever gotten in my life, so hold on. I got to record this. I got to write it down. That's the way we should think of it if we really did believe it. However, here's the deal. We usually do accept this, at least to some degree. And we usually, a lot of people will uncritically accept that and say, no, how do I know God told you to tell me? None of that kind of stuff. It's tabloid theology. It's like, oh, wow, yeah, that fits within my worldview. God telling me something. So here we go. And I'll make an argument much later on, 20 or 30 sessions later, this is taking the Lord's name in vain. It's the essence of taking the Lord's name in vain. When we say, God told me to tell you, and it wasn't, God never told me, accepting it is too, because you're taking God's name in vain whenever you accept this uncritically. It's his reputation. If somebody comes up to you and says, I'm telling you, no big deal. I know you're fallible. I know you're probably wrong. You're wrong most of the time in your life. All humans are. But if somebody comes up and says, God told me to tell you, they're claiming the reputation of God, the power of God, the foreknowledge of God, the omniscience of God. They're claiming it for themselves, and they're wanting you to accept it at that point. That's where we have to be very, very careful. This is what tabloid theology does. Tabloid theology is something we have got to stay away from as Christians. It is something that we cannot be so uncritical. We love God with our mind. Let me tell you something. Whenever we were talking a few sessions ago about God in Isaiah 40 through 48, chastising the Israelites for believing these gods they were carrying around could save them, they were tabloid theologians, because that's what everybody else did. That's what the nations did. It was common acceptance. So it was kind of that deal. It's always, and it's so much easier whenever it does fit in with your worldview, whenever it already is something you like. Jesus healed somebody. Great. Jesus has power that proves it. This can go as well for near-death experiences. Now, I think near-death experiences are very, very interesting, but at the same time, if you uncritically accept it without really evaluating it, putting it through the critique, whenever you uncritically accept things, that is tabloid theology. Okay, guys, let's see here. Let me see if I got any interesting stuff. Okay, Credo House Ministries, Patreon, listen. All right, go to my Patreon, support there. That's on a monthly basis there. But also go to Credo House if you need a tax-deductible donation. If you go to the Patreon, you get all kinds of free stuff. Lots and lots of free stuff as well. You have access to all my blog posts. I still blog sometimes at credohouse.org. I know there's so many of them. Well, I've got credoministries.org, credohouse.org, credocourses.com, and my Patreon. We're putting it all under. If you go to ministries.org. Everything is under that umbrella right now. We're working this out. We're updating, we're changing. And listen, guys, I don't know if you remember the Credo House Coffee Shop. This was a few years ago. This was before I got on drugs, and during I got on drugs, the pain pills. I got hooked on pain pills quite a bit. And it wreaked havoc on my life. Anybody who's been through that knows. I was taking care of my mother. I was carrying her around. My back was so bad. I got on these things. I thought that they were the wonder drug, not only for my back, but they just put me in a good mood. I mean, I didn't know a thing. I was that naive about opioids. But anyway, so I was on them for a long time. Credo House suffered, okay, the coffee shop. But I've been off since 2017. I mean, I still believe that God is pulling me in that direction. Now, okay, did I just use God's name in vain by saying that? Because I'm like manipulating you by saying that. I don't mean to. I really don't, because who knows? I'm wrong about God a lot, just like you are. But I have a passion for this. That's something I can say very truly. I want this coffee shop. I want it back. I want to create one that is just the intellectual, theological hub of Christianity, so that people who are beat up intellectually can come there and know that there will be a substantial bulwark of theology and defense of the Christian faith, but also a great place for fellowship where you have theologians hanging all over the walls, all of church history, different. I mean, it's just crazy having Luther lattes, Calvin cappuccinos, the C.S. Lewis, which is an Irish cream latte. Now, by the time you're watching this, maybe we've already got it back up, but we still need you to contribute to this, because we want to keep this mission going. I need you to contribute right now, because I need to get it started again. So think about that. If you don't have any money, just go out there and work and try to start an extra job and give it to me. Come on. No, I'm just kidding. If you don't have any money, of course, stay away from it. But hopefully you can enjoy it someday. I'd love to start these all over the country. I've got a big mission. I do. Okay. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for coming each day. If you don't come each day, start coming each day. This is so much fun. Through Theology in a year. And we will see you next